morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. It's mid-August and Hollywood is getting pretty darn quiet. There's a trickle of casting announcements coming out, but nothing too exciting. Tom Hiddleston might be playing Ben-Hur. Sophie from Game of Thrones looks like she might be playing Mary Shelley in a small film about the creation of Frankenstein, but with some genre elements to it because she didn't just write the book, she lived it. The typical Hollywood story. Just some little casting announcements like that, but nothing for anyone to be excited about. So as a result, the movie news websites are digging deep for stories that they think someone, might actually care about to drive traffic. So that's why you're seeing stories develop. No actual official announcements from the studios, but, these movie news websites just looking for anything that they can post. And that's why you're seeing, again, it's a trickle, but at least it's a trickle that, people are overall interested in. So today we're going to discuss a few of these developing stories at this point, because again, they're not official announcements. They're just, being slowly uncovered. So the first, is Aquaman. We discussed Aquaman yesterday. I shoot these episodes early in the morning, so sometimes I just miss a story. And I talked about Aquaman and Jason Momoa, being somewhat confirmed at this point to play the role. Still, not an official announcement, though. And also Zack Snyder calling into the Detroit radio station to defend Aquaman. Well, just right after I basically posted the episode, a story breaks that Warner Brothers is so happy with Jason Momoa as Aquaman that they are fast-tracking a solo movie for the character. So let's discuss that today, because I think I think there's some interesting aspects of play here about how the movie's being made, and then also just to see, in general, their plans. And, again, that they continue to be the company that's just you want to root for, but it's very difficult considering the decisions that they make. So they've hired 2 writers to work on this. Now, some of you actually thought, are they making 2 different movies? Well, yes and no. This is apparently a practice in Hollywood that's somewhat regular. However, I would be shocked if it ever actually worked. Because these 2 writers they've hired aren't working together. They're kind of almost competing with each other. They're giving the property to 2 separate writers to work on individually, and then they're going to pick the better project. So they're it's almost like creating a competition, like throwing 2 gladiators into the ring and be like, whichever one lives will be our movie. And then they'll either pick the best one, or maybe they'll cherry pick the best elements from either script and just mash them together in a movie that, hopefully, fingers crossed, will turn out. So who are the writers who got the call? Well, Will Beall is one of them, who wrote Gangster Squad. I don't know what anybody would call him after Gangster Squad. Then Kurt Johnstad, who wrote the 300 movies, which, of course, is his Zack Snyder connection. Zack Snyder, of course, directed the first 300, but produced both of them. Now, if I had to pick somebody who would succeed in writing this film, it would be Kurt Johnstad. And I think if you consider Jason Momoa is your Aquaman, going the 300 route ain't a bad idea. However, I would like to remind Warner Brothers that Jason Momoa's Conan the Barbarian was a total flop. And actually, Jason Momoa, while he's had some success on the small screen, has yet to be in a successful movie. I think that he is not someone that mainstream audiences trust in terms of quality. I know a lot of you have been saying, but he was so great on Stargate. Well, unfortunately, that was a very small audience for that show, and I don't think granted, he might have done a very good job. Enough of you are saying it that how could it not be true? But it's a reputation that hasn't followed him in his career. So I would be like, really, Jason Momoa anchoring a film for you? I don't see it. And then also an Aquaman movie. So you have 2 strikes against the movie before they even write a single letter on the page or shoot a single frame of film. So it's very difficult. If you're going to do team-ups like Captain America the Winter Soldier did so cleverly, well, they gave Cap, another difficult character, a lot of backup with Black Widow and Nick Fury. I think that Aquaman would be the same type of character. He should really be in someone else's movie, or a team-up movie, like the Flash and Green Lantern movie that is rumored that they've been working on, which I think is a very good idea, by the way, to do a team-up like that. So anyway, they're also deciding who should direct this movie. Well, I would say if they're going the 300 route with the writer, why not pick Noam Murrow, who directed 300 Rise of an Empire? I thought he did a very nice job, and that film had some phenomenal visuals. Some might complain about the story, but you know what? It was a pecs and boobs movie in slow motion with lots of cool, rain effects and like warriors and blood and 3D, and it served its purpose. It had its place in the movie landscape. I enjoyed it, and a lot of people enjoyed it, and it did pretty solid business. So I would be like, well, you know what? Noam Murrow, he can handle these kind of effects. Aquaman, there's going to be a lot of water, a lot of splashing, and that should look pretty cool in 3D. And Momoa has some pecs, so there you go. So that's what I would pick. But I'm just very curious to see if Aquaman, I mean, really, Aquaman is just such a risky property for a cinematic universe that isn't even stable on its feet yet, steady on its feet. And where's the Wonder Woman movie? Where's the solo Batman movie? And also to get Jason Momoa having his solo film, it's just super risky. And again, you would think, they would be a little more steady. And also you could say, well, some of the Marvel characters weren't so well known. Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth. But the first Chris Evans' Captain America movie was not that great. I know some people enjoy it, but it didn't do particularly great box office, and it really didn't capture everyone's imagination until Winter Soldier, where he had a lot of backup. And then Chris Hemsworth was pretty much a new discovery. I would much rather they had a new actor playing Aquaman. I would have more faith in the project in that situation. So who do you think? Who would you pick in terms of writers? Who would you pick in terms of directors? What do you think of the way Warner Brothers is putting this film together? And do you have any faith in a movie which stars Jason Momoa as Aquaman? All right, so that's the first story of the day. The second story of let's revisit Inhumans. We talked about this on Monday with Vin Diesel and the fact that he tweeted out, hey, Marvel thinks I'm pretty inhuman. Actually, I think this might have been on his Facebook page, but it was removed from his Facebook page. I think Marvel was like, what are you doing? If you want to be Black Bolt, take that down. So it's gone, but he tweeted it for a reason. However, word has come out that Marvel is really pushing this Inhumans film. They have their script done by Joe Robert Cole, also from their writing program. One of the writers from that program got her first gig on Guardians of the Galaxy, co-writing with James Gunn. So if you're an aspiring screenwriter, you should really look into this Disney Marvel writing program, because it clearly, parlays into not just work, but great work, really great opportunities. But using untested screenwriters, I think, is can be a little bit tricky if you want to have a script have that polish that I think Marvel. I mean, that was my problem with Guardians of the Galaxy, a real lack of polish. That's what seasoned professionals add to something. So we'll see. But apparently, Marvel loves the script that this guy has turned in for Inhumans. And because of the success of Guardians of the Galaxy, they are super happy with their cosmic expansion of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they want to keep expanding. I would revisit Guardians of the Galaxy, and I would keep because I think those characters need more development. And I would instead of having Guardians of the Galaxy 2 in 2017, move it up, go right back into production, make a solo film for those characters. I'm quite enjoying, by the way, the Guardians of the Galaxy solo comics. Rocket Raccoon, the Star-Lord one is pretty good, but the Rocket Raccoon one is great. If you liked Rocket Raccoon and Groot in the movie, go pick up that comic by Scotty Young. He's doing a great job. He's writing and doing the art, and it's very, very good. And so it is like a little bit like a continuation of the movie. So I would revisit those. And also, as I said on Monday, one team movie, colliding potentially with another team, I think team movies, starting with a team movie is hard. And even though they succeeded with Guardians of the Galaxy, I wouldn't press my luck if I was Marvel. I would, maybe they'll make just one character in the Inhumans the focus, instead of focusing on as a team, focus on Black Bolt. But Black Bolt can't speak, so will it be a Medusa film? And also, again, I have to say, it's a little disappointing, again, no announcement for a Black Widow movie, no announcement for a Black Panther film. These are demographics that have been very supportive of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're being, not only, shortchanged in the merchandise, as we've been talking about for Gamora, but they're being shortchanged in their films as well, getting properties. And get instead an Inhumans film, which is, largely white, largely male, both the female roles are subservient, being pushed forward. So I'm just curious, does anyone here really want to see an Inhumans movie? I think it could be cool. I've enjoyed some Inhumans stories, but I don't want to see an Inhuman. I don't want to explore a different region of the Marvel Cinematic Universe before I feel the one that we've already been in is fully explored. There are characters here I really like that I don't want to see just abandoned. Like Falcon and Black Widow, etc. And also, where's the Doctor Strange movie? I don't know. It seems like, Marvel, are they really taking risks? I'm not sure. So I'm curious to what you guys think. All right, so that's the second story of the day. The third story, speaking of Marvel, is that yesterday the Captain America 3 writers were talking to some press, and they said two things which I think are disappointing a lot of people. They said Sam Wilson will not take over for Captain America in the third film. This is what they're saying. Don't be surprised if there's a change or if Marvel directs them to do something else. We'll see how Sam Wilson is appreciated in the comics. So if you want to see see Anthony Mackie as Captain America, go buy that comic when it comes out from Marvel. And then also no MODOK, even though they kind of lay the groundwork for that as well in the second film. And they said, you know what, they can experiment in the comics more because the comics have been around for so long. But we're only a couple of years into our Cap movie franchise, and so we still have work to do with the character. I would say not true. Cap is pretty one note. He is not a deep guy. He's a soldier, and he's a Boy Scout. He doesn't have, I don't think he has hidden depths. I think what makes Cap interesting is how he responds to certain situations. So I would think it's a mistake not to explore these other, the Sam Wilson angle. I've never been a MODOK fan, but he has his fan base. But he's very a surreal character. If MODOK would show up anywhere, I think it would be with Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, that's talk about James Gunn would love it. So give it to somebody who would love it. But I think the Sam Wilson aspect is a mistake, and I think they're incorrect about Captain America, because I don't think the character was even that fleshed out in the second film. A big part of the Winter Soldier was the dynamic between Cap and Bucky, but you didn't see that in the movie. That was really like an afterthought. It was not delved into. It wasn't the core of the film. I mean, it was interesting, but I think that the film was much more interesting for its political aspects and what it talked about with S.H.I.E.L.D. And all the different characters and some really great action sequences. It was more about the world we live in than Steve Rogers who's living in it and how he's living in it even. I mean, they talked about that a little bit, but still, this wasn't a character-heavy piece. So I'm curious to what you guys think. Are you disappointed to hear that news? Do you think these writers know what they're talking about? And what do you want to see in Cap 3? All right, so that's the third story of the day. Let's go on to the viewer question. This is from Mockingjay73. He says, "Hey Grace, I'm really hoping you could answer my question. I've always been interested in film, but also law. I was wondering what jobs are out there that involve law and film. Keep up the good work. I love the show. Lots of smiley faces." That's great, Mockingjay, and I think that that's a wonderful profession. A legal profession, and it can be very interesting. It has lots of different fields, and sure enough, one is being an entertainment lawyer. Now, there are a couple different ways that you can work this angle. A lot of times there are lawyers who go work for agencies and management companies because you have to work out the contracts on your angle, and sometimes you can even become an agent or a manager because you have that legal background, particularly an agent, because you're negotiating lots of deals. So I think that's one way you could go. Because basically everybody in Hollywood needs a legal department. They need a legal team. You could also, go work for a law firm in Hollywood that represents studios, but also talent. There are at least a couple of law firms there which cater exclusively or almost exclusively to the Hollywood community. So you could look that up and go and try and get an internship there and work there. You could also be a lawyer for the directly for the studio itself, be part of their legal team. Of course, right now, Lionsgate's legal team is in the news quite a bit these days because they're combating the leak on Expendables 3. So that's something you could do. But it's if you do go into law and you want to go into Hollywood as well, be aware that most of your work will be around contracts. It's not going to be trying cases, criminal matters, even civil matters, or handling divorce. A lot of the things you see on television. It's going to be almost exclusively contract law, and also probably some accounting in there as well. But you're going to be just mostly looking over contracts. So just keep that in mind as well. That's the kind of work you're going to be doing: negotiating contracts, looking contracts over, and maybe as piracy continues to be a growing problem, you might find yourself investigating that. But still, it's not. Being part of Hollywood might be exciting, but it might not be the most exciting way to practice law. So I really, would advise you to look into this quite strongly. See if you can get some internships. Maybe take a look at entertainment law. Maybe you can find a book about it. Just kind of get an idea of what you're getting into before you get too far down that path and you have a hard time turning around, if you want to. All right, so Mockingjay73, I hope that answers your question. Good luck. And as I always like to point out on the show, which is one of the reasons I picked this question, is that you don't have to be an actor or a director or a producer to be a part of Hollywood and to be a big part of it and to be successful. Lawyers and a lot of different jobs are very lucrative in Hollywood, even though they might not be the flashy jobs that the media so much likes to spotlight. But here on this media show, I try to spotlight as many different sides of the business as possible because it's a great business, and just because you're not in those few headline jobs doesn't mean you should feel that you have to be excluded from what you love. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. Please write down below what you think of today's top 3 stories, the viewer question, anything you'd like to see covered tomorrow, and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.